Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well. I know it has been quite a minute since my last video, but I'm here today. Today I want to talk to you about what I committed in my previous video, which is to do a series of video that talks about secondhand buying and second and selling on the secondhand market. I think a lot of you guys who follows my channel realize that I do a lot of buying and selling through secondhand. I feel like it's a topic a lot of you are interested in, but I think it's actually very difficult to cover both or cover every aspect of it in one video. So I'm thinking to do at least 3 videos that will divide them into more specific topics and considerations for you guys. So today I want to talk about consignment store more specifically because I do think consignment is still one of the main pathways for most of people to buy and sell secondhand goods. And again, nowadays consignment store can take many forms. Given social media and internet, there's like so many different types of consignment stores. So I would like to try to cover those in today's video. There is also in my future video. There's also, of course, direct buying and selling, like personal direct buying and selling. And also, I want to talk about social media platforms such as like Facebook, Poshmark, your Craigslist, Kijiji. So that's another category. And there's also personal sellers and buyers, people who can source specs for you and then go through it that way. And then last but not least, my favorite aspect, probably my favorite uh, path option right now is vintage buying. So I would like to cover that in my last video. Anyways, so let's get into it because there is quite a lot to discuss. So like I said, today's video is going to be focused on consignment stores. And I do feel like the nature or the definition of consignment store has changed so much since the internet with like social media platform being so active and being the like main source of us getting all the informations nowadays. Um, and I feel like, especially during the pandemic or after the pandemic, a lot of this has changed even more. So I will tell you, I'll go into a few of my personal examples, but I'll lay out exactly like what I'm trying to say here. So types of consignment store. You have consignment store who has a physical store, of course. So in most bigger cities or a like major city, you tend to have these um, consignment or secondhand luxury goods store that basically you could go and physically see bags on site, try them on, like look at the condition in person. They either buy out the goods from someone or they will consign it in their store. So they will have the bag there and then they will only pay out the seller, the seller when they actually sell the item. So that's one type, and that's like more traditional form of a consignment store. So for these traditional forms, it's fairly straightforward. Like I said, if you are someone who's looking to buy, it's not really different from shopping in any other store. You go in, you look at the bag, you try it on, you examine the condition of the bag or the whatever luxury item that you're looking for, and you make your purchase through credit card, and then that's it, right? That's a clean transaction. You buy and sell. And of course, whenever it comes to secondhand goods, you want to make sure it's a reputable store to ensure the authenticity of the item. I would say most physical store, they have a pretty good authentication process already established. They either use entropy, they use authentication. A lot of them use entropy. I feel like that's the more to go pathway for whatever reason. And a lot of the items that they host to consign already come with some sort of authentication. So that's your kind of physical store. And then I do think most stores, it really depends on the location and size of the boutique. Sometimes they could have like a huge inventory, but sometimes quite smaller. I do find their consignment fee to be a little bit higher as well, which means the items themselves are a little bit pricier as well. And of course, there's a supply and demand. Here where I am, there's like not a huge luxury market. The couple consignment stores that I know, the items are fairly expensive. I've looked into consign with them, but never actually worked with either of them. And I did browse in the stores. They are the price are quite a bit more expensive compared to the market price. Um, and of course, that's considering they have to pay the people, the staff, the sales associate who are on site. They also have to pay the rental location of that boutique. They also have to care about insurance of the boutique. So there's quite a number of factors that contributes to the higher price of the merchandises. However, I do think the big upside of buying directly from a store, like I said, you are able to physically see it. It's not a picture. There's no alteration to what you see. You can try it on. You could, and there's that people interaction. It just feels the process to be a little bit more secure in general. And if the physical store is there, if anything goes wrong, you can always go back to it, right? So there's all that to consider as well. So, and also for a seller, then to consign to those store, then consider you probably won't get as good as a payout because their fees are generally higher. But again, if it's close enough to you, then you'll be able to like securely drop off the bag or take the bag back if ever it doesn't sell or you found a seller on your own or something like that. So that's kind of the physical store aspect, the traditional method. Now I feel like there's very, very few physical stores out there. They, generally speaking, it's a physical store plus an online store. I don't think there's any like solely exclusively physical stores anymore. I feel like most of the time, at least, they will have an online website. And to be honest, most store nowadays they use other platform, WeChat, Facebook, Instagram, to expand their sales. So they really try to list their item in a number of social media platforms. So even though I'm talking to you about different types, but technically they're all kind of intertwined in many ways. So the online consignment store, which I think a lot of you probably come across more often, and it's probably the ones that you've always wanted to try but had hesitations or concerns with it. So in terms of online Instagram, for example, Instagram consignment luxury goods store, I feel like those are fairly common. You see these Instagram accounts with thousands of bags, hundreds of bags listed with pretty pictures, and then there's a price. And maybe this consignment person or a store, they say they're based in so and so city, which is where you are, and then you're like, okay, but there are 100 of them. How do you pick and choose, and how do you compare when you don't even know who they are and all that information? So there are a few, like I said, there are a few more established long time big consignment store, and I can even list a few down below. In major city in Canada, in Vancouver, in Toronto, there are a few like pretty big consignment store, and there's they have also really big online website that's been established, similar to like Fashionville in the US. There's Rebag, Reveal. There are a number of like big secondhand online consignment store now that they've expanded to other platform as well. But so those are a type, I would say, and I think they do a lot more buying and selling, way more than a specific physical store does. Um, I would say that the problem with large inventory, which you might know or you may not know, but with large inventory, there are often bags that were selling on the website that got deemed to be counterfeit. So like really good counterfeit products that end up being listed for sale on those big platforms. I think the quality control and authenticity processes might not just be as stringent when they have hundreds and thousands of products to list. um, the good thing about those websites is most of the time they will ask you to ship the physical bag to them. So they do go through like an inspection process. They will take their own pictures. So the pictures are more standardized, under similar lighting, professional pictures. So it really captures the true form, the flaws, all that of a bag. So all that I feel like it's at least a little bit more standardized, but doesn't mean that they actually, like I said, they actually have the best or most foolproof authentication process. So, and with larger companies, sometimes it's also hard to deal when there's an issue and quality control issue. Like, for example, if I'm in Canada, I would probably never purchase from Fashion Fell just because with the duty and the crossing border, I think it could cause a lot of issues. So personally, I will not, but I have tried to consign with them and they do give out like pretty decent quotes. But still, I do feel like there's a bit of hesitancy on, like on my part at least, to buy and sell to those bigger stores that are not based in Canada. Um, the online store, on the other hand, like the ones that doesn't have a big long-term established website, but they seem to have like lots of inventories and they seem to have a large number of followers. Those are usually good signs. So if there is an account that has like thousands, 100,000 of followers, chances are they have a long history already, or a number of years business already established. You can check out the reviews. You can actually Google them up, look them through different accounts. They'll be tagged in other references and things like that. And then there are two things to consider when it comes to those type of Instagram accounts. So are the pictures looking like they're the same background and um, same person taking those pictures? So as in, do they actually ask when they consign an item, do they actually ask the seller to ship the item to them? They do a phone inspection and then full like and then they do all the photo shoot and everything on their own site, and then ensures that it's all done properly. Or is it you know oftentimes you will see these websites with very different, they could be very nice pictures, but they all look very different. So that could mean that those pictures are actually not taken by the store themselves, right? Chances are those pictures are taken either by the seller, or there could be pictures taken from other website. It could be they sourced out this bag from another consignment store or from another person who was trying to sell this bag, and then it's simply just listed on their website. It's very, very difficult to know where those bags are sourced from when there is no clear indication of who has a bag, where this bag is from, and all that stuff. So there's definitely a level of trust that has to be built in between you and this consignment person. Do not think just because they have a business, they are more trustworthy or more established or anything like that, because you never know. Um, I've had some horrible experience with well-known consignment stores myself, so I would just really, really caution people on that. So the ones that has, like I said, a more formalized process where all the pictures look the same, and then there's a large number of followers, they have high reviews, I would say those would be a little bit less concerning. So I feel like those are, you know who they are. They probably have a pretty like good business. Their price are generally slightly higher as well. You could probably tell, and often they actually possibly have a physical store, because the bags will be required to ship to them. They will need a place to store and display them anyway, so they generally have a physical space where they sell their bags as well. So those online boutique, I would say it's a little bit more secure. However, if you want better prices and you want like more options potentially, you could look into those more personalized one-man consignment store. Like there's generally those really good buyer and sellers who have their own Instagram page or Facebook group page, or a Facebook, just a Facebook account where they constantly be posting these really tempting deals, and you're not sure if they're legit or not. Do follow them for quite some time. Take a look at all the items that they post. Don't hesitate to ask questions, because a lot of the good sellers that I've come across, or buyers really, they are not afraid of questions. They're willing to put in the time when to try to make a sale happen. So I find that really, I really appreciate when you can tell they're not just trying to rush you or push you into a decision. They really try to answer as much as they can, get all the truths from them, because it's very hard, I find, to be completely transparent when it comes to these luxury goods transactions. it's very difficult to be straightforward, because oftentimes, once a bag has left the original owner, has once it has left the boutique, there's no telling where it has been. Okay, like honestly, like when you're buying from secondhand, this bag could be sold originally in Asia, in a whole different country. If there's no receipt, no, not a lot, especially the more older, the more vintage it gets, harder to say really where it's been, who has touched it, has there any been repairs done on it, what happened. It could be a stolen good. You will never know, to be honest. Like most of the time, you will never know what's the history of the bag. But those are the type of risks that you have to willing to live with when you're buying secondhand goods. So if you have the seller who's willing to answer your questions and you follow them, they seem to have a number of reviews, and then you are really comfortable with them, I would still say like maybe start with something that's not too pricey, um, before you get into like buying like really expensive item from them. So it's nice to always try it out first and see how smooth the transaction goes, and then go from there. Um, with selling, same thing. I feel like people tend to have a little bit more hesitation when you're selling with when you have to ship your bag to a place, right? For consign, because things can happen during shipping. Um, it always feels nicer when you have the physical bag with you. So for that reason, most of the consignment store, basically the ones that I've worked with, they will ask you to take your own pictures, and then they will list the bag on their website. And if it sells, then it's a win-win, right? So they get a commission fee, you get the money for the bag, and then you will be shipping this bag to them. That's another thing. Sometimes you'll be shipping the bag to the consignment store. They will do their inspection and making sure it is as described before they send it to the buyer. Sometimes they don't even do that. They will send you a shipping label where you'll be shipping your bag directly to this poor buyer who has no idea what they're getting, to be honest. Because so all that comes down to, like I said, trust and how often you've worked with this consignment store. I've sold a number of bags where I was given a label and it's clearly not to the consignment person, it's directly to the seller, to the buyer. I could be shipping an empty box, and who's to be responsible for that? Like when something goes wrong like that, it gets very, very tricky. Like who's responsible, and who, like at that point the funds has already been sent to me. So like it's a tricky situation. So when you're selling a bag, the bottom line is don't ever ship your bag to anybody until you get your full funds. Send it to you by e-transfer or deposit into your account. Don't ever send your bag anywhere, not even to the consignment stores, in my own opinion. Just because I've had situations where I consign a bag with somebody, the bag is already with them for quite some time. She said the bag was sold for a number of months, and I have not received money until I harassed the person for a number of months after the item is technically officially sold, before I got all my funds. So I would say, don't always blindly trust just because they seem to have a large follower or anything like that. Most of the time, if you consign, it's best to either use physical stores or use links, or use those Instagram accounts that you could just send some pictures, then they can help you expand your clientele, really. But that's my opinion. And then in terms of buying, like I said, like really research is the key. Ask all the questions, ask about the condition, ask where the bag is from, where it's purchased, has any repairs done on a bag. Like don't be afraid to ask all those questions. Ask for a video, because I find pictures are easier to be taken from places, but ask for specific videos, ask for more details of some pictures. That way that you can ensure that the physical bag is with someone and those are not pictures stolen from another source. But at the end of the day, like I said, these consignment stores, they often list like other people's bag or other links or other like websites even. Just at the end of the day, they just need to make a cut from the transaction that they're making. But all it matters as a buyer like for me, for example, I just want to make sure I'm getting the bag that I see online. So I'm paying for the bag that I actually thought I would get, and that it's authentic and the condition is kind of what around what you expect. But at the end of the day, when you're buying from these online consignment stores, aside from those bigger corporations, then there is usually no refund or after sale customer service or anything like that. So don't expect like you can still make a return or get your money back when the transactions are final, because most of those, even those online consignment stores, it's a final transaction. Like it's really by e-transfer or direct deposit. So chances of you don't like your bag or something's wrong with it to get a refund on it, it's pretty low. So those are the considerations. But definitely, if you're buying from consignment or secondhand, you can generally find a much better price compared to the overall market price. And in terms of selling, I think, like I said, most people are interested asking, like, how do I sell my bags? So I use the same thing. I look through consignment stores, I look through like Postmarks, Facebook, marketplaces, Kijiji. I basically list bags wherever I think could make a sell. I also use some of the Chinese Asian platforms, so WeChat, the Chinese Red Little Book. So I've made a few sales here and there from other platforms as well. But as a seller, the only way you can guarantee you will not get scammed is to make sure that the money is in your account and that transaction is not reversible. I wouldn't recommend, allowing credit card. I wouldn't recommend allowing like PayPal friends and family. I usually deny. I'd rather not make a trend like sell, even when people are kind of saying that. And also, the last most important is there's a lot of scam when people are sending you money through e-transfer. So to make sure that email is legit, don't click on random links. Make sure it's a regular, normal transaction, and you can actually see the money in your account before you ship anything to the person. So those are some of my tips. Like I said, this is kind of overall on consignment store transactions. Um, and I would like to talk a little bit more about like direct person buys and sells in my next videos. And obviously you do get a much better price if you do this direct person buys and sells, but more risks involved, I would think. Anyways, we'll get to that in my next video. I hope this is somewhat helpful. I think it's a lot of information, bits and pieces. So if you want more details or anything, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me on my Instagram. I'm always happy to chat about bags. All right, we'll talk to you soon.